This is the Millennium Falcon. And this is the Millennium Falcon that I flew in Starfield.
Starfield.
What is Starfield?
Starfield is the latest game from Todd Howard, the creative mind behind two of the greatest RPG series of all time, The Elder Scrolls and Fallout. But the game that most people will recognize him for is Skyrim. And in the lead up to Starfield's release, Todd has described it as Skyrim in
Space, the final frontier.
When I think of space, my brain only goes to one place, Star Wars. So what got me the most excited for this game was in 2021 when Bethesda's managing director said that Starfield is like a Han Solo simulator. When I read that, I said,
I like the sound of that.
So I spent over 50 hours role-playing as Han Solo in Starfield. My mission was to find my own Chewbacca, pilot my own Millennium Falcon, and to try to become the galaxy's greatest smuggler. Come on. Then to decide once and for all for myself, is this really Skyrim in space? The game starts slow, where Skyrim starts by throwing a dragon in your face to run from. Starfield has you mining rocks. But after making my character and fighting off some pirates who became way more important later in my playthrough, I got the keys to my ship and I met my first companion, Vasco. So me and Vasco then took off into space to start exploring. But then I quickly noticed that for a game about exploring the galaxy, the actual exploring part of it is a little underwhelming.
Well, that was fast.
Traveling between planets boils down to a series of menus, loading screens, and short cutscenes. And then when you reach a planet's surface, most of your exploring looks like this. The game then puts dozens of mechanics in front of me while barely showing me how to use almost any of them. I even found some contraband really early, and I was ready to start becoming a smuggler then and there, but I picked it up and I realized,
So I have no idea what to do with this.
so out of desperation to understand it all, I ended up sticking to the main story for a while in the hopes of it teaching me how everything works, which it does a little. The main story brought me to each of the main cities like New Atlantis, Aquila, and Neon, and then I started leveling up, which gave me skill points, and slowly but surely it started opening up my gameplay.
Oh my god, this is so helpful.
This was my first 15 hours. But it wasn't a complete detour from my mission because it gave me the opportunity to roleplay Han Solo's personality in the dialogue. Han Solo's dialogue in the Star Wars movies always revolves around these slightly cocky or witty remarks, and he tries to talk his way out of as many situations as he can.
Look, Jabba, I was just on my way to pay you back, and I got a little sidetracked. It's not my fault.
So I tried to talk to people the same way. But as I went through the main story, I started to notice a pattern. My dialogue options kept boiling down to some combination of the straightforward hero, charm or sarcasm, or context questions. Luckily, this worked for me. That charming or sarcastic response always felt like what I should be saying, and the persuasion minigame let me talk my way out of a lot of situations, even though it always felt a little awkward.
Finally, someone who gets it.
So after getting about 3/4 of the way through the main story and saving up a good amount of credits and investing points into social, combat, and tech skills, it was time for me to start the journey to becoming a smuggler, which starts with a new outfit and a laser pistol. So I started shopping around between all the main cities, and I stopped off at a trader in Aquila, and I found this. Ooh. Okay, now before you say anything, I know this isn't very Han Solo. If anything, it's looking very Cal Kestis, but this is what I decided on. And it just so happens that the same trader, I was able to find a laser pistol.
A laser pistol.
First impressions, it looks like a toy gun. And do I wish it fired red lasers instead of blue? Yes, but it's okay. Combined with the pistol and the laser weapon perks, it was able to hold its own in a fight, and I ended up cycling through a few other pistols anyways. And it's definitely worth mentioning that the combat in this game is like way better than all the other Bethesda games. I don't know if it's just because the sound design in this game was just fantastic across the board, but every time I got in a firefight, I was really enjoying it. But anyways, I knew in terms of looking the part, the most important aspect was going to be the Millennium Falcon. I used to spend days making homes in Minecraft and building maps in Halo Reach, so building my ship was one of the things I was the most excited to do in this game. But I need to be honest, I didn't think it was going to be possible going into this. I initially tried in the opening hours of the game, and I just spent 5 minutes in it, and it just made me go,
I can't do this right now.
but I was determined. So I decided 20 hours later to come back and try again. And my first attempt, well, it didn't go so well. So after some research online, it all started to make a lot more sense. So then I turned to gathering some reference photos, and I realized that there was a few things that I needed to nail to make this feel like the Millennium Falcon, or else it wasn't going to work. The split on the front, the cockpit on the side, and the pancake-shaped body. My first draft was able to nail the split on the front, but my cockpit was way too far off to the side and the body was not even close to being round. So the first thing I wanted to do was to round the body off more, and I found these pieces which got it as close as I could get. But I could not figure out how to get the cockpit in the right place. So I went online to see some other people's attempts, and I found this photo on Reddit, which I think nailed the cockpit placement, so shouts out to this guy. Then after spending 4 hours in the builder, I landed on version 2, which honestly I was pretty happy with. But then after flying it around for a while, I realized it wasn't perfect. I just felt like it was a little too flat. I wanted that smaller split up front, and I wanted the bay door to come out the bottom instead of the side. So I did some more digging online, and I found this tutorial right here, which I feel like had the best attempt for the Millennium Falcon I had seen up to this point. My ship only had 2 layers, and his ship had 3, which fixed all the problems I had with mine. So after adding that 3rd layer, I didn't think it was going to be possible, but all of a sudden, I had my own Millennium Falcon. And I'm not gonna lie to you, after spending that much time in the shipbuilder, I just enjoyed being in and around the ship so much more that it made space travel for some reason way more enjoyable. So now I think we look and sound like Han Solo, but as I was walking around my ship, I realized it feels a little empty, so I think it's time to find our co-pilot, which brings us to companions. Thanks to my time in the main story, I was able to gather a roster of characters who could be my companion, and honestly, they're great to have and so annoying to be around. They're pretty helpful in combat and they can carry a lot of your stuff, but they will not stop asking you to talk to them. Take this one time I had with Sam Coe. On this one mission where I just intimidated a captain to loot his entire ship, Sam thought it was just a great time to have a conversation.
You got time for a quick chat? I've got some stuff on my mind. I'd appreciate a chat.
And then when I became encumbered, which happens all the time in this game, I was forced to have the conversation with Sam before I can give him any of my stuff to hold.
Late at night in dive bars.
And after we were done, I guess he had more to say because 2 minutes later,
You got time for a quick chat? When the time's right, I'd appreciate a chat.
or this other time where I'm literally at a funeral for one of the main characters of the game and I'm listening to his speech and then Sarah just goes,
When you have a few moments, there's something I'd like to discuss.
it just made me want to travel by myself. And after realizing there's no intelligent aliens in this game, it just made me think my Chewbacca mission was going to be a failure. But then I realized I was already given the perfect companion right at the beginning of the game.
Captain, do you require my assistance?
He also just happened to be the only non-human companion in the entire game, so I think by default he just becomes Chewbacca. I felt like all the pieces to my Han Solo puzzle were finally coming together, but there was just this one thing that I kept wanting to try to do. One of the deeper cuts to Han Solo's backstory is that he was actually an Imperial Navy pilot before he became a smuggler, and I just kept thinking about how I could possibly try to roleplay this in Starfield. The closest thing that I could find in Starfield to being anything close to the Imperials was the United Colonies faction. So I decided to join the UC Vanguard, their volunteer Navy service, and wow do I wish I did this earlier. The faction missions are so much better than the main story. The UC mission starts off with this museum tour you get to walk through, and the narrator explains the setup for the whole Starfield universe and the origin to all the different factions.
2050, humanity learned the Earth's magnetosphere would collapse sometime in the next half-century.
Where was this when I started the game? They then had me do this pilot training simulator, and then they set me off on my first mission, and oh my god.
What the fuck was that?
What's that sound? Security lockdown is active.
Fuck off.
Shit. Oh my god.
Oh, shit.
The UC questline revolves around these gnarly looking aliens called Terramorphs, and it was so sick. I was way more invested in this than anything I'd done up to this point in the story. I was putting hours into this questline before I even realized I got distracted from my main goal, so I needed to put this on pause and come back to it later. I was only missing one more thing to start smuggling, and that was shielded cargo. When entering planets occupied by any of the major factions, they try to scan your ship for contraband. If you get caught with it, you get arrested, or you can just try to take off and you'll pick up a bounty. But if you put your contraband in shielded cargo, you have a chance to pass that scan without getting detected. So after doing some research online, I found out I can get shielded cargo from the Crimson Fleet. Damn. The Crimson Fleet is this pirate group that I've come across a few times throughout my playthrough, but most notably, right at the beginning. And through my time working with the UC, they gave me the opportunity to go undercover and infiltrate the fleet. As a narc. First things first is I had to prove myself to them. In order for me to do that, I had to do some typical pirate stuff. I had to shake people down for money, I had to offload some drugs, and a few other things. But once I did that, they gave me access to their entire base. The key. Once I got on board, they gave me the tour, showed me where the shops were, where I could pick up missions, and then I even got to meet their leader. But as soon as I was off the leash, I ran right back to the shops and I went to go pick up my shielded cargo. After 40 hours, finally, I'm able to start doing smuggling runs, the only thing stopping me from completing my mission. But then I got distracted. By money. The fleet's questline revolves around this long-lost treasure that they need my help to go find, and considering how much fun I was having doing the UC's questline, and they're telling me I might be able to get rich doing this, I couldn't resist. So then I went full pirate. I fought some aliens, I blackmailed some people, I stole some things, and I eventually helped them track down this treasure. And honestly, I was having a great time. So in the end, I ended up betraying the UC, got in the biggest space battle I'd done in the entire game, raided their ship, and I got paid really well. So after that quick detour, it was finally time. I went in my new captain attire over to their mission board, and I picked up my first smuggling run.
All right, baby, here we go. It's about time. Come on.
46%? Oh, okay. Come on, come on. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. So, like, am I gonna have to, like, give this to somebody? Or is this gonna be just... Oh, okay, that was it. And then I was like, why not one more? Come on, 62. Let's go. Let's go. Well, I guess you can call me on Solo. I guess that's it. So as I'm sitting here editing this, I'm realizing that my final thoughts on the game have changed again for like the 5th time as I've tried to make this video. So I'm just going to give it to you here at my desk instead of in front of the green screen. After playing through Starfield, I look at it through 2 very different lenses. The first lens is all the problems I have with the game that are all exemplified in its first 12 to 15 hours. Inventory management is such a pain and it takes up so much of your time. Dialogue is completely handicapped by the stiff facial and body animations that are in every conversation you have. The main story is not engaging or exciting besides for very few moments. And the game does a terrible job of showing you how to use all of its different mechanics, and you're going to have to go online to get a better grasp of it all. See, all of these problems have existed in almost all of Bethesda's other games, and most people I think could just put it to the side because of all the great content that these games offer. But I think all these same pain points are so much harder to swallow this time around because of this new issue in Starfield that all the other Bethesda games haven't had, and that's the lack of organically exploring a handcrafted open world. When I played a game like Skyrim, I would be able to walk off into any direction and explore the entire world without a single loading screen, and odds are I'd come across a unique piece of content on my own. This just did so much for my immersion and sense of discovery, and even though Starfield technically has more handcrafted stuff in it, it just didn't give me the same experience when it's all separated by menus, loading screens, and short cutscenes. I just feel like we've lost that sense of being able to walk in any direction and organically discover these crazy pieces of content, because like that exists in this game, but it's so disjointed that they're going to need to show you where it is rather than you just stumbling across it. Now, the other lens that I look at Starfield through is that it's taken parts of the Bethesda formula and made it the best it's been in any of their games, and it reminds me why these games are so special. The faction missions go toe-to-toe, if not beat, anything that Bethesda's done before. Gunplay actually feels good in this game, and combat is easily the best it's been in any of their titles. The City of Neon is probably the best city that Bethesda has ever built. Shipbuilding was new, but it was my favorite part of this game, and I spent hours in it, and I can see myself spending hours more in another playthrough. I think there's really a lot of good parts to this game, but the point I want to hit on is that I've played games with better first-person shooter mechanics, more immersive space travel, better dialogue systems. Honestly, most of the mechanics I've seen in this game have been done individually better in other games, but very few games can take all of these different mechanics and weave them together into one complete package. A package that is still missing that secret sauce that makes a Bethesda game stand out from all other RPGs. Mods. Bethesda has fostered one of the most vibrant modding communities in all of video games, and when this community gets a hold of one of their games, it becomes elevated to this whole other level, which means any problem I have with the game or any new content I'd want to see in it or any possible new feature I can imagine all might be there a year or 2 from now when I decide to pick this game up again. So in the end, despite its flaws, I think Starfield is another great Bethesda title that stands shoulder to shoulder with the ones that came before it. I think this game's only going to get better with age, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's going to become in the future. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.